Good evening. Welcome to the March 7th City Council meeting, the 6:30 City Council meeting. At this time, we will stand for prayer and Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And prayer by Councilman Lawrence.
Father God, we humbly come before you, the throne, Lord, and we ask, God, that you give this council divine wisdom and insight of how we should lead and what we should do for such a time as this. And Lord, we humbly ask, God, that you just continue to bless this city and the city management, Father, and all of our first responders, Lord. We ask that you just guide them and direct them, Father, and keep each and every one of them safe from any harm that would come against them. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you. And at this time, if we'll have questions and comments from any citizen that would like to speak. And if you would, you can come up to here to the microphone.
Well, thank you very much. My name is Glendon Forgy, and I'm president at Frank Phillips College. And I want to thank Amy and the Borger Inc. for the approval of the new resolution for the college for welding equipment. The Borger Inc. had initially authorized, and the City Council approved a resolution to purchase a CDL truck. We had trouble finding a CDL truck that kind of met the requirements that were in the agreement. Fortunately, the state of Texas had a Texas Reskilling and Upskilling for Education grant, and we were able to go out and buy one. And by the way, those CDL classes are going to start March the 20th here in Borger, okay? But as we presented to the Borger Inc., we are overflowing in our welding program. And so we asked to have that money repurposed to buy additional welding equipment. We are doubling up in welding booths. And so if you're a student, half of your time is just sit there watching. But fortunately, the Borger Inc. has graciously agreed to amend the initial resolution and come back and help us with some welding equipment. We're going to put that equipment in a portion of the ag building that's currently kind of vacant temporarily. And I say temporarily because we are wanting to place the construction management program in that spot. The construction management program, and a little bit about this, and I've mentioned this to Mr. Uli, this is a program that I saw in Dodge City, where the city of Borger, the city, Dodge City partnered with the community college. The community college there had a construction management program. Well, here, the college does not yet have one, but the school district does. And so we're going to try to partner where we can have those students, give them a credit and a certificate for completing that class as they are completing the construction management class. But what this class did up at Dodge City was they would take abandoned, condemned, blighted property that the city had purchased that's off the tax rolls. And the city would provide the materials. The construction management program would go in there and build a brand new house. Nice house. I mean, it was a nice 3-bedroom, 2-car garage house. So after the project was completed, of course the city owned it. The city would auction it off, make a pretty good profit off of it. And then, so the property came back on the tax rolls. A person had a place to live. The area was kind of cleaned up a little bit. And the students were able to learn a trade. And so that's what we hope to put in that space in the ag building. We are hoping to, and have raised $350,000, probably $500,000 towards welding building expansion. So we may be coming back to the Borger Inc. In the next month or so to ask for some assistance to that. But we've already got $350,000 from Amarillo area foundations, and so we're going to be looking for some local input on that. So any questions?
That's great.
No.
If you're interested in that program, it's called the CHAD program, and it's in Dodge City. And it's a very successful program.
All right, thank you.
sir.
I think they got something like that in Amarillo. Yeah.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak?
Yes, my name is Dee Dee Woodard. I live at 210 Maple Street.
What was that again?
210 Maple.
210.
Maple.
Okay.
There's a bad cat hoarding situation going on at 108 Maple that I fell into. And I went and asked for help. I called 911 for a welfare check right off the bat, just because it didn't look right, didn't smell right. I had a friend that had died in a house recently, alone. Nobody found him for 2 weeks, so yes, I was concerned. Had the police come out. Police looked through the windows. It is the most horrifying scene I've ever seen in my life. I'm 57 years old. I've had an animal my entire existence. When you've got feces 2 feet tall on a kitchen counter, is bad. I asked if, until something could be done, if I could feed these poor animals. It was 17 degrees outside. They were so hungry, they were eating their dead. That's how emaciated they were. I had called 911 for the welfare check. I had 2 city cops come out, and they called their sergeant right off the bat. And then we could see in the windows, because there were 2 open windows of what was going on. I asked if I could bring food. Water was rushing out the back door where a pipe had burst, because it was 17 degrees at that time. That was a real cold week. My concern right now is I spent 30 days of my time, my money, to go over there and make friends with as many as I could and find homes for them. And I did. I got 2 to Amarillo. The only shelter that would even help is Lost Pets of Amarillo. She took 2 little females. One was pregnant, one was not. The one that wasn't has already found a home. The one that was, she's sitting in foster waiting to have kittens so she can be fixed and they will find homes. I spent 30 days sitting in filth to make friends. A couple in Fritch came and got a little boy cat for their farm. I sent 2 tomcats to a dairy farm in Dumas because they ran out of cats. And they were like, we'll take an outdoor cat's lifespan is 2 to 4 years. In our neighborhood, we got cat hawks. You're lucky to make it through the spring. These cats are all having kittens. There were several pregnant cats there. The ones I made friends with, the dog pound picked up in a matter of hours because I had sat out there and I had made friends with them. Nobody else did. This has been going on for over 2 years. When my mailman of 19 years has been smelling this for years, the other mailman that covers him when he's gone has smelled this for 2 years. And the police officer that arrested 2 people that was breaking into the brick house next door smelled it himself when that went down. That was over a year ago. But now it's out to kill everything out there. Here I found homes for 5 plus, because 2 that I took to Amarillo were little females, because that's all she wanted was all the females, especially the pregnant ones. So they didn't get destroyed. One wasn't pregnant, she automatically got a home. The other one is sitting in foster because she is pregnant. My concern is there were several cats. They told the mailman they had 30 plus before Mr. Dennis died in August of 2001. You've got cats in there I never seen out of that house in 30 days. I don't think they can come out. I think there's something physically wrong with them that they can't make it out of the house. So I asked the police if I could put food and water. Was told I could. So I did. I had a lady from Amarillo call Tractor Supply, order me a bag of food. I had another lady from another place call and order me a bag of food. The other 3 I bought out of my own pocket. I've been going there 2 times a day to try to make friends. A dog and a cat I can make a friend with a dog in a day. A cat that ain't been touched in 6 months to a year or longer, it's gonna take a little bit of time to make friends. Dog Pound had it easy. The two I grabbed, my little tomcats that I had worked so hard to make buddies with, because them two stuck together, went to the dairy farm as the dog catchers next door, grabbing the little females that I had worked so hard to make friends with, that I got their cages sitting at my house. They were ready to go to Amarillo. You got cats in there that are starving to death for a drink of water. The simplest thing to keep something alive. The trap should have automatically been put in the house to have got the cats that could not get out. And there's still cats there. There was a cat on 2 houses down on the neighbor's front doorstep. He's wanting a drink of water. Do you know how cruel that is to die from a drink of water? That's beyond cruelty. It is. If you're gonna do this, you're gonna kill them all. Cost me $65 to put my little dog down after 14 years last Wednesday. What's it gonna cost y'all to put all these cats down? When I was finding homes, a church lady got a hold of me Sunday. She was just waiting to get to church to talk to the ranchers. I had more cats' homes, and I had to tell her, call the pound and see if anybody's left.
I came up here, I'm Belinda Massengale.
Yes, I'm Belinda.
And I started noticing cats, because I'm like 4 houses down from when that house was. Well, I started seeing cats coming up to my house, and I'm like, I've been there 22 years, where are these cats coming from? And my cousin is an animal lover deluxe. I had a turtle like this in my yard that came out of the rubbish from across the street.
Looking for a drink of water.
We had to catch this turtle because she wasn't going anywhere, and it was a big snapping turtle.
And he was dying for a drink of water.
The first officers that we called, I was there with her, because she didn't want to be like she was breaking in or that we were trying to stake the place out. But she ended up finding out that's where all these cats were coming from. So the heart that she has, she says, calls the police.
I told the police the
It
dog
was
pound
Officer
needed to be
Cutler.
involved.
I know this has been brought to our attention before, and we really can't, talk about anything that's not on the agenda, but I will tell you that it is in front of the police department, and things are getting, it's being looked into, but at this point, really, our time is up for that, for your, but
I just wanted
I
y'all to know
appreciate you
that
coming
they're,
up here.
they're dying of a drink of water. That is the
Well, the
simplest
first
thing
set
there
of calls
is.
told her it was okay to go on. So that's when she did.
And now I've been told I
And then
can't go back.
She was told by, when she went back to feed him, then she was told by, well, he called himself a peon. Proc, I guess, what was his name that was on?
No, it was one of the
Brock,
officers that used to
Brock.
be a dog catcher.
So that's when they said
we're out
she
of
couldn't
time.
go on the property.
But I just wanted to bring it to y'all's attention that they're dying for a drink of water. That is the simplest thing.
I appreciate
there
you coming
is,
in
is a drink of water.
letting us hear your side, hear your story. I really do, but we do know that there is something going on, and it is before the police department, and but we're just really not able to discuss anything that's not on the agenda, other than just listening to what you'll have to say. And I appreciate you coming to the council meeting to let us know.
Well, I went everywhere else. I went to Mr. Spradlin, he sent me to the Borger PD, they ghosted me. They talked to, chief of police wouldn't, but then I got ghosted. Because nobody bothered to call back. Tell me if I can go down there or if I can't.
Well,
But-
and I'll follow up, but like I said, we cannot give you permission to set foot on private property, that, we don't have the
Right.
authority to do that.
Right.
But I know we have started a code enforcement case on the issue with the house. I did that after you left, and I'll follow up with the chief to see where we're at on that.
Keep in mind, when y'all bulldoze it, if nobody goes in there and checks, there's mama cats in there with babies everywhere.
We'll have to go in because there's a warrant process and a condemnation process,
Okay.
so it takes time, but there's
Okay.
a process. That's like kind of what we talked, for us to get inside to do all of that, I've got to start that process, and unfortunately,
Yeah, because it only takes an animal about 7 days to die from a drink of water. So just keep that in mind. You can Google it. I Googled it.
He Googled it.
That's how I found out how long it took.
Well, she just didn't know where else to go to. So she said she'd go to
Well,
city
thank
council.
you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for coming before
Thank
us.
you. Yeah, thank you
We
so much.
appreciate you. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak? And I see none, so we will move on to the consent items. And if there's any discussion on the consent items, and if not, then I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion, we approve consent item 5 through 9.
Second.
And all in favor? And it passes. And then moving on to item number 10, consider and take appropriate action to approve an agreement between the City of Borger and Hutch Cares Living at Home LLC for the Senior Community Assistance Program. Mr. Strope.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. This is a project that we started about a year ago. Something that was identified in the Boomtown 2040 plan by our council was to, start looking at some of these underserved populations that, they want to care for their home, they just might not have the financial means to do so. So we reached out to some other cities and looked at some of the models that they had, kind of asked do's and don'ts, best practices. And so this is kind of a culmination of that and working with the Hutch Cares Living at Home executive director and their board. And so basically what this is it puts forth a policy, what the city would require for the policy to follow. That's one of the things that's required by statute is that the city maintains control of the funds and makes sure that they're spent appropriately and that it does come back to benefit the community. And then the interlocal agreement just is that go between, between us and Hutch Cares Living at Home. Spoke with their executive director on multiple occasions. They're great with facilitating the program. So basically we will fund that up to a maximum amount based on the budget. And the program stipulates how much an individual household can receive in a given year for the project. And that goes off of their total income. It falls back to federal poverty guidelines. So, it really takes into, all the factors that are going to kind of make that decision. Speaking with a couple of board members who we have here tonight, they'll host the application, and that's something we'll still finalize, getting that put together on paper. They'll host it, and we'll simply, provide and oversee the funds, and they will go through the application process, make sure that reputable contractors do the work, that the individuals are receiving quality for their, for the cities and the citizens' money. And in the process, not only does it help that individual home, but it helps the entire block and the community as a whole by, improving the look and the functionality of that, and keeping those property values up. Like I said, we do have Harvey and Chris here if y'all have any questions for the board members.
Hi, Chris. So will this be something that y'all will know who needs it, or will they be able to apply with y'all, or how?
So there's an application that I was talking with Brandon that we'll draft, get the repairs needed, how long so in that contract, the occupancy, you have to have lived in that house a certain amount of time, have to less than 2 people in that house, over 65. So we'll get their age, how long they've lived there, the repairs needed, and the income level, and we'll work on that. We'll host that. There'll be a link that they can click to fill that out and submit it to us by email or drop off to wherever we, mail it into our PO box or whatever we need. So we'll get that application, and like it says in the contract, it'll be first come, first serve based on the list. If there is a waiting list or if the funds have been expended for that year, we'll put them on the waiting list for the next year when it's renewed, pending our renewal and meeting and reporting back to you guys and letting you know how that goes.
Okay. Yeah.
And like you said, we have talked several times about drafting that, and I think it's one of those things we'll bounce back and forth if something doesn't work or if we figure out something that we need to change. We'll definitely talk about it throughout the year, try to get it to where we need it to be. I'll be with him about people, electricians, plumbers, general contractors, things like that. We'll make a short list that we know that's reputable with the city, and then we'll go to those people and I'd like to get probably 2 or 3 quotes from those contractors to make sure we're doing our due diligence with the tax dollars, and then from that short list, get those quotes and then choose the best, most affordable and the best quote that we get to make sure we're doing that properly.
Chris, would they have to get licensing and stuff to do some of these repairs?
So in that contract, the permits are going to be waived through the cities, through this program. They will have to be licensed and
We'll
bonded
waive the
through the city
fee.
boards.
It's supposed to be
Yeah,
inspected.
Right,
Still
so
got
to get the permit, but there's no fee with it.
Right, sorry, good.
So if there's any electrical work or roofing that would require normal inspection
Right,
through the
right.
permitting process, that would still all be done, again, to make sure that it's all being done to code and per normal requirements.
Right,
Like Chris was saying, the fee for that would not be charged in that case, because again, we're trying to help that underserved
Right,
population, and so we don't want to,
It's a good
counteract what,
Right,
what we're
right.
trying to do.
You wanna be helping, not
That
that
wording was important. Not waive the permit.
The word is important for the,
Yes, for their semantics, it is.
I know you weren't implying not comply.
Right.
But it even includes a administrative fee that the hutch carriers could take out of that. It's a small amount, but it allows them to do some of that process, the due diligence, and, pay for some of that staff, hours and service that will be needed for that.
But it would be local contractors?
Yes.
Typically?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. Yeah, like we said, they'll be registered with the city, and we'll get with Garrett or Brandon and make sure that it's, reputable and licensed and bonded here.
Okay.
And in the instance that we can't find somebody here, I mean, there's something that we can find here locally. We might have to go out, but that'll be special. I mean, we'll talk with them. That'll be special instance.
Yeah, the contract doesn't require it. Of course, generally, it's more expensive with travel fees and stuff
Right.
like that on some of this stuff to get somebody from out of town. I do think there's probably an opportunity for hutch carriers to communicate with local contractors and get
Yeah.
discounted rates.
Yeah, being a business
For-
owner here myself, I mean, I prefer working local as much as possible, keeping it here local. And so that's my first priority is trying to find somebody here. I mean, obviously, locality will jump you on the short list
Right.
higher than somebody from Amarillo or even Pampa.
Right, and
But-
I've been associated with some other things in other states where they tried to help people like this, but they were trying to make it even cheaper, like going solar on some of the stuff instead of, throwing in more electrical stuff.
Right.
I don't know if that was going to be any type of the option for this.
So if we get presented with that, I mean, I'll communicate with you. I mean, however we want to do it. If we just want to talk with Garrett and Brandon and the board, or if you want us to present that to you, there's a special instance where it's going to be something more renewable, maybe cost more, but last longer. Because like you said, long after some of the residents are gone,
Right.
relocated, or have passed, that house, that infrastructure is going to be improved for the next homeowner. So if that's something like that, we'd probably special case that and bring it. I mean, because some of those projects, they'll also wipe out that budget pretty quick because there is a maximum per
Right,
case
I saw that
of
on there.
5,000.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I think like what we're looking at, like in my mind, what we're looking at are roofs. That tends to be a big
Right.
problem, that they can't afford to replace the roof. And of course, that has energy efficiency and other implications. Windows.
Right, right.
Yeah, absolutely.
On some of these programs I was talking about, the government was actually coming in and subsidizing a lot of these programs like for new windows, the high energy efficient ones that they
And,
didn't have to.
that's something too, that just because there's only $5,000 per project with this program doesn't mean, like you said, that they couldn't get,
Right.
a government grant, or, maybe some, if there's a faith-based organization or, another organization that's willing to, kick in for that as well. I mean, all of that could be taken into account, as long as that stays within this program's count.
Right.
And I will say, this council's been pretty good at directing us to take baby steps.
Yeah,
Right.
and that,
This
I mean, that
is
is
baby
what we
step
wanted.
one.
right.
Yeah, we actually did want something that would help, and, because it's gonna benefit the property in those lower income.
And that's why these do have to be physical improvements. These are not,
Absolutely, yeah.
you
That is
know,
something
it's
we
got to be
requested.
improvement to the actual structure that will stay with the structure.
Right.
And this is something that Deidre and I even discussed, when we're looking at this, we may get somebody that comes to the board and says, hey, this is what we'd like to do, however, it doesn't really maybe fit. Maybe it's just overgrown weeds or something. That's where, we said we could turn around and get back involved with Hutchinson County Day of Caring. Maybe we refer that back to that, or, again, any number of other organizations that, could go in and mow some weed, cut some weeds down, that
Right.
maybe doesn't fall in with the intent of the program, which is improving the physical
Right.
structure. So again, like Chris said, we've got a great relationship back and forth, and we'll do everything we can to try to help as many people as possible.
Chris, how does Hutch Care get, I mean, do y'all have like a list of or do they apply? I'm just curious, like, because I know y'all do a lot of other projects
So
too.
this isn't going to be contingent on them having to be a Hutch Cares client.
Okay.
But, so as far as this program, it's any senior over 65 that's
Okay.
in the city.
So
But
they
if-
will
if
just
they-
know to come to y'all.
Yes,
They will
ma'am.
just go to
We,
Hutch
we
County.
will I'm sure they will do public education,
And
we'll
we
do
will do-
public
okay.
education.
And along the lines, it does work hand in hand with Hutch Cares because our clients are solely over 65.
Right.
So we have a lot of families that, their parents live here, so we'll get calls and we'll do home inspections, and so we sign them up individually. And so a lot of those are the day of caring projects, and so we send that out to them. And a lot of those have needs, and so we'll also send this to our clients as well. It's not it's not exclusive to them, but it is going to aid that as well. So it is kind of a hand-in-hand partnership. And so along the lines, the grant things and things like that where we need to point them to other programs or to United Way Day of Caring, if there's roof repairs, that roof gets above 5,000 really quick.
Right.
And so there are going to be jobs that we'll probably we have to say no to because we don't want to do 50% of a roof and leave the other half hanging. So we'll try to find some grants and things like that. And so we'll have to, like was said, we'll have to, this first year or two, we'll kind of learn what works, what doesn't, come back and kind of bounce back and forth and say, that was terrible, we need to change it, that was great, we need to keep it. It's one of those that until we implement it, we don't know. We can hear about other successes from other towns, but we won't know what works for Borger as we go, so.
I read the house has to be insured. So could the 5,000 we pay their deductible and the insurance pay the rest of the roof? Is that in the?
It's vague enough that you could do that as long as you get the roof.
Okay, but if they're insured, I would assume they would have at least some roof insurance, but everybody has a deductible.
Yeah.
Maybe they can't make
That's
the
a great idea.
deductible. And you're gonna lose a house real quick if you have a roof issue.
Right.
It's gonna
Absolutely.
degrade quickly.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay, I was curious about that.
Yeah, the execution of it, we tried to, we were more concerned about the qualifications and the type of projects and less, we knew who we wanted to qualify, and we knew what the outcome needed to look like.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of flexibility
Okay.
and some of what you're saying, a lot of those decisions or specialties, it's built for really the board, the Hutch Cares board to make those determinations as long as it's with under the $5,000 and meets those, and it funds one of those required projects somewhere. If they're good with it,
Okay.
we assume that y'all are good with it.
I wasn't speaking in opposition.
Yeah, no, yeah.
I was just,
And that's, like I said, it's as flexible as a government program can be, I think.
And as we go, if there's anything y'all want to add or change, it's definitely something that that's that open dialogue to where we can find that kind of perfect
Right. I
addition
know
to the
many
city.
years ago, I was out of Abundant Life Fellowship Church. I ran the rooftop ministries and stuff, doing small jobs, and it wasn't long before those jobs became big jobs, and then people were getting upset. Well, you met this person's need, but you didn't meet mine. But at least now you've got a guideline, $5,000 max, and per thing. So I'm all for it.
And I figure a lot of that, we'll get critiqued. It does require Hutch Cares to make an annual report to the council so they can see, you get to see the projects and what was happened. And
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean.
No,
to-
you're good.
We'll take before and after, and we'll be ready for those presentations to show you that it's going well.
Yeah, it was definitely something that we wanted to see happen, so it's pretty cool that we've got y'all to take the lead on it, so
Yeah,
I think that's pretty
it
cool.
definitely requires an agency like
Yeah, it
Hutch
does,
Care to do that.
absolutely.
It's beyond what a city staff is staffed and
Yeah.
paid
Yeah,
to
we
do.
appreciate being
So-
approached with the
Yeah.
possibility
So
of doing that.
we're very happy to, I don't know if enable is the right term, but enable in a good way.
Right.
Those kind of profitable things.
Well, and I would just add, I think, to pat the back on this council and the city as a whole, is keep in mind that most cities that have these programs are larger than 100,000 people. And the reason they do these is because they get community development block grant money directly to the city. So they use federal funding to support these programs. So since we have less than 100,000 people, we're what's called a non-entitlement city. So we don't get money from the CDBG directly. Our money goes to the region, which is administered through PRPC for regional projects that all the counties and all the cities have to apply for. They don't have housing programs with our CDBG money because they're busy funding sewer and water projects, which in a lot of our rural communities, improving the house doesn't matter if you don't have water and sewer.
Yeah.
And so I'm not necessarily discrediting that, but this money is coming out of city reserves and city funding. So this is the city of Borger funding this, not
Absolutely.
through any grant or
Absolutely.
through any funding. So the fact that we're allocating and prioritizing this while still being able to lower our property tax rate a little bit, I think just reiterates some of the progress that we're making.
Yes. Thank you, Chris.
That's
Thank you
your
so much.
pleasure.
Thank you.
Well, I'm just here. These guys did the hard work, so thank you guys for doing that.
I know it's taking a little bit longer. Brandon did a great job researching all of this. I mean, we approached the council with this idea like
Yeah.
18 months ago. And, from then I said, the tricky part in all this is qualifying somebody, and I knew that we didn't have the staff to do that, and we needed to find the right nonprofit to partner with. And this project, I think, will complement what Hutch Cares already does, and allow them to expand, I think, on some of those. They're really good at making somebody be able to stay at home, and now maybe we can improve their home
Absolutely.
on top of that a little bit, so.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
We realize it takes volunteers.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for what you do, Chris.
Happy to partner.
I'm just the treasurer. I just write the checks.
Yeah, people like Harvey that drive from
Harvey back there too.
Well, you drove from Amarillo just to be here tonight, so
Yeah.
I had a shorter drive, so
Yeah.
we've got good leadership for sure.
That's great. Thank
Power of the
y'all.
pen.
Right.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thanks, sir.
All right.
Thank you. If there's no other questions or comments, then I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve an interlocal agreement between the City of Borger and Hutch Cares Living at Home, LLC.
Second.
All in favor? And it passes.
We all like that one, didn't we?
Like that one. We're all just gonna say second.
Try to give you fun things every now and then.
Yeah.
That was good. Thank you.
Moving on to item 11, consider and take appropriate action on Resolution R-007-23, suspending Southwestern Public Service Company's proposed effective date as related to SPS Statement of Intent to increase base rates submitted on February 8, 2023. Mr. Edwards.
Yes, Mayor. Nice to be able to speak with you guys this evening. It's been a while.
Good to see you.
Back in February, Southwestern Public Service filed with the city and the Public Utility Commission of Texas simultaneously an application to increase its base revenue by $148 million. Now, that's not just for the city of Borger, it's for everything they serve in Texas, so don't let that number scare you. It does represent an increase of about 20% in just their base rate, which is pretty significant. It's one of the biggest asks we've seen in a long time. I mean, for base rates. Now, that'll be mitigated with fuel costs and all that. It's an overall increase of about 13% onto a customer bill if it goes through as it does. As council is aware, we've done a number of these over the past several years. Council has 35 days from the date it was filed to take one of three actions: to approve, deny, or suspend the rate case. Well, obviously, something that's this big and this complicated, you can't research that and do your due diligence in 35 days. So the recommendation is going to be to suspend that, which will buy us additional time. As in the past, we are asking to partner with AXM. It's the Alliance of XL Municipalities. That alliance was formed back in 2006. I remember when I first moved into City Hall from the field, that was one of the first things I got on was on it. So I've been on it since day one of that alliance. We've had many rate cases over the last 15, 17 years. And I think we've saved the ratepayers a considerable amount of money. And while keeping SPS as a good, strong company, it's not, unlike the industries that look just to the bottom line, the cheapest they can find, we want service as well. I think we're seeing some of that with Texas Gas. We're not getting the kind of service we need. SPS went through a period of that. We have actually offered them more than what we could settle for in some point, but in return, we got better service. The last few years, they've kind of slipped, and their service is slipping a little bit, and they're getting far more litigious. And what I mean by litigious is even fuel rate cases seem to take longer and more, they're just more controversial. Anyway, kind of moving on, some of the key elements of this filing. is obviously it's always kind of a, I don't want to use the word fight, but essentially it is between customer classes. You know, once we settle the dollar amount to SPS, then you have to decide which class. Is it residential? Is it industrial? Is it small school? That's usually, you know, sometimes that takes longer than settling the rate case at all. The next big component is the ratio, the return on equity and then the capital structure, you know, common equity or debt. They're asking for a 10.65% rate of return, which is in the realm of norm. We've approved that number before in that, so it's a great rate of return. But where it gets tricky is that capital structure. You know, years ago, we kept it 50-50. In other words, when they would go out and invest maybe $100 million, 50% of that investment would be from stockholders. Those stockholders get that 10.65% rate of return on their $50 million. The other half is debt, and of course, the SPS would pay interest on that, just like we would if we wouldn't issue debt. Right now, that interest is around 4.19%. From a ratepayer's perspective, you want to see more debt than you do equity. Obviously, SPS wants to see more equity because they make more money that way, and that's the name of the game. That's kind of the balance. It's always controversial what that rate of return and how that rate breaks down in these cases. I've kind of included in your packet, I'm not going to go over it, a separate sheet of a bunch of different key elements of the case, depreciation, and they're retiring some. They want to retire early, like Toke and Plant X and things like that. You guys have heard this before. These all come up in almost every rate case we have. So currently what needs to happen is by March 15th, which is the cutoff date, all 80 city councils, commissions need to take action on this. AXM steering committee, AXM is by the way, is kind of guided by a steering committee of about 10 cities. Borger and Amarillo and Pampa up in this area, Perryton, Dumas up in this area. There's a couple down south, Plainview, Level M, Slayton, I believe, is one of them. We kind of take the lead because most of the smaller cities don't have any, they don't even know what, how to do that. So we've always taken the lead at doing that. We are recommending that all of the cities deny the rate case with the exception of the steering committee cities. Those cities will suspend the rate case, which buys us basically another 135 days to do it. Ultimately, council will have to come back likely sometime in July of this year and either approve or deny, take one final action on the rate case before it goes to the PUC, because SPS will ultimately appeal that to the PUC. So that's really all this resolution does today is suspend that rate case for those additional 135 days. I want to talk a little bit about the financial impact. A fully litigated rate case can cost upwards, and I'm talking about cities' costs to actually litigate it. SPS will spend $3 to $4 million on their side. We will spend $700,000, sometimes a little more. You say, well, that's a huge amount of money to spend on law firms. But if we can knock off 10% of their ask, that's a savings of $14 million. So although, we're talking a lot of money, and of course, rate case expenses are always reimbursable. The SPS will reimburse us for those. That's in the law, the Public Utilities Act. What is a little different this year is SPS, when I said earlier they were getting a little more litigious, SPS has always reimbursed us through the city of Amarillo. Basically, the city of Amarillo pays the rate case expenses, and SPS reimburses them on a monthly basis, so they're whole every month. This time, they've kind of alluded to the fact that they're not going to reimburse rate case expenses until they're ruled on by the PUC, which could be 18 to 24 months from now. So, the cities would have to bear that. I doubt that Amarillo will bear the full brunt of that if that happens. So we may be coming back to, especially the steering committee cities, with some kind of formula of how we do that. Ultimately, they will be returned to us as long as they're reasonable and customary, and they always have been. We've never had any rate case expenses, to my knowledge, denied for that matter, but and I think there's a push, not just necessarily from SBS, but a push from the other electric utilities to try to do that, mainly to try to prevent, prevent's probably not the right word.
That's a good word.
Anyway, they would like the cities not to participate, but, we owe it to our citizens, they're ratepayers, they're one and the same. We owe it to them. We are the city is the holds original jurisdiction over rates and utilities inside city limits. So
Remember, they are a authorized monopoly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they therefore need regulation.
And that's why they do this. And I will say, that don't forget that depending on how far some bills might progress through the legislature right now, there are at least 2 bills that would prevent our ability to intervene at all.
Yeah.
And now, as we talk about this, remember, a good chunk of the state is deregulated. And so you do have competition, and if you don't like your electric rate, you can go find somebody else. But up here, you do not have that choice.
Normally I speak highly of SPS. I'm not doing that quite this time because frankly, they're not as fun to play with as they used to be. No other nicer way to put it. But I think we're good. We are going to meet with them in person toward the end of March to try to work that out and try to get us all on the same page and back in the same playing field. And I think ultimately we'll find a solution to especially the reimbursement of rate case expenses.
Now, Jared Miller has indicated that Amarillo likely will continue to fund that, but I have also told him that we would find a way to fund our fair share if that's the way that it needed to go.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I say, ultimately, they will be reimbursed. They may be on the books for an audit or two prior to that reimbursement. So anyway, be glad to answer any questions that council may have on the resolution. But
SPS is a publicly traded.
SPS is a publicly traded company, it is.
Now, Eddie, if we get the resolution to suspend, now when it does go through, will the rate increase be retroactive to when they ask for it?
The rate increase will be retroactive to the 155th day after it's filed. I think I'll put that date in the memo somewhere.
Yeah, I got 135 days or something like that. No, maybe it's something else there.
But to answer your question, yes. And there's also a lot of times the SPS would like us to implement interim rates. We have done that in the past. We do that if we know they're going, and they're deserving an increase. Don't get me wrong, they are deserving an increase. The question is how much. So in order to avoid a big surcharge, because those rates will retroactively come back to a certain date. Well, obviously, if that date is, say, in May sometime, or June, I can't remember exactly what it is, it's 155th day, if I remember right, and it takes a year and a half to settle it, then you've got 18 months of they're going back and back bill for 18 months. Mm-hmm. That comes in on a surcharge. If you've looked at your electric bill lately, you have about 4 surcharges on there right now. Absolutely. I think 3 of them are fuel. One of them is
the last rate
case expense.
And then your meter.
And then, the AM, that's a new one that's just coming up, their automatic meter reading system, which I think is a good thing.
And because one of the fuel is we're still paying for Winter Storm Uri through one of those surcharges.
So essentially, we have in the past have authorized interim rates that start, and irregardless of, and we do that to try to minimize the amount of the surcharge that may come back on you. Of course, if the PUC offers less than the interim rates, that surcharge will come back in the form of credit, which is always a good thing. So, but to answer your question,
but they wouldn't hit somebody all at one time with it'd be over a period of
right. Usually we do the surcharges anywhere from 12 to 24 months, depending on the amount. Other surcharges that are on there when they're maybe come off. It's you kind of look at it case specific when that question is asked.
But you said that the PUC, they could go with, like if the amount is agreed on or what, and SPS doesn't agree with it, they appeal it. Don't they always pretty much win with PUCT?
No. But I think with the city involvement, no other intervener in the PUC will spend the time and the funds necessary to really do the due diligence on the rate case that the city does. I think without city involvement at the PUC, then SBS would probably come out on the higher end. And the reason I say that, the turnover at the PUC of their staff, the PUC staff, and there's also the Office of Public Counsel, which is the representative for people that live outside of the city limits. They turn over like every 12 months. So the experience level at reviewing rates and things like that at the PUC and at the staff and the Office of Public Utility Counsel, it's pretty low.
Keep in mind, there's no college degree for public utility rate case processing.
No.
You know, so there's no education to get you prepared for that. So there's all sorts of on-the-job training, and so you expect them just to come in and know how to handle a rate case.
Yeah. Okay.
Anything else?
Nah.
Well, thank you for your expertise and help on this.
Absolutely. Be glad to do it.
And while we're, patting everybody and ourselves on the back, the other city managers and the AXM were I think they were scared when Eddie retired because none of them wanted to be chairman of the AXM group.
I guess I'm still the chairman, huh?
He is, and they're very appreciative of the city council for allowing us to continue to have that one of Eddie's part-time emeritus duties.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We value experience.
Yeah, for sure. And it is good for our citizens because, I mean, they could, like you said, if there's nobody fighting for them, then no telling what we'd be paying.
And like I say, we've always taken a position, we don't want SBS, we don't want to pin them down. We want them to be a strong.
Yeah.
It's good for economic development, it's good for service. We don't want, but we also don't want the ratepayers to pay an excessive amount. We want them to pay their fair share.
Absolutely.
Right. I know for many of us that are on fixed incomes and stuff, every increase is a big hit.
It is,
Yeah.
And with inflation things, it's, we want them to make a living, but we also want to live too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know if you noticed, but in the documentation I included, a summer increase for somebody that uses 1,000 watts.
Yeah, you do.
This amount is almost $20 a month. That's pretty significant if you're on a Social Security income.
Yeah.
Especially when the hamburger at McDonald's costs you 15.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, really.
And a lot of times you don't get what you ordered.
Anyone else have anything else? If not, then we'll entertain a motion.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I move to approve, well, was that the end of discussion?
Was that, is there any other discussion or anything? Okay.
I move to approve Resolution R-007-23, suspending the effective date of SPS's February 8, 2023 application and statement of intent to raise base revenue for 135 days. Authorize the City of Borger's continued participation with the Alliance of Excel Municipalities. Authorize the hiring of attorneys and consultants and requiring reimbursement of reasonable legal and consultant fees.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And it passes. Moving on to item 12, consider and take appropriate action to approve Resolution R-008-23, authorizing a financial agreement between Borger, Inc. and Frank Phillips College. Hi, Amy.
And so this is a high-demand job training grant in collaboration with PRPC, so they are matching our funds. Currently, what Borger Inc. would be funding is 12 welding machines and 4 portable fume extractors. They're like doubling and tripling up right now in some of their welding booths. And what's really interesting is the high school makes up like 80 to 90% of the enrollment in this program. And so we're asking that you approve that. And Dr. Forgy kind of mentioned the construction program. And so later this month, just so that you're aware, we're going to have a construction day. Borger Inc. is hosting that for the high school. And so we have several speakers coming in Katrina Kidd from the DIY show, Texas
Oh, I'm
Flip
so
and Move.
excited.
Park Hill happened to be here for a meeting today, so I recruited them. And then another couple who has had one of the largest apartment builders in the state of Texas. So they're all going to come in and talk to them about their different perspectives and experience in construction. And we're going to spend the whole day with them. I've got Clay Rennick that's going to do a downtown tour and tell them about all the great architecture, that Newman and Bailey has the first escalator. We're going to go through some of the old buildings and just kind of try to ignite that passion for them. And so, because that's also a high demand job. And when I talk to the school, this is not one of them that you really get funded back for. But this was one that the kids are interested in, and we have such a wide community need that they felt the value was there, even if it's kind of a losing money or they have to take from other budgets. So there's a lot of things that in the future I want to see us do for this group. When I got to meet with Dee Dee Conaway and Matt Ammerman, they told me a great story about there's a little girl in this program, and there's a high female percentage. I think it's almost 50-50. And her goal is to start a construction company in Borger to build houses and stuff, but so she can employ her family and remove some barriers from them. And I thought, those are the kind of things we want to ignite that passion and kind of move them to the next level. I want to get, Larry in code enforcement so that we can kind of combat some stereotypes that he's there to make their life hard. And if they'll meet with him first, he's actually there to make sure you're successful.
Yeah.
So we want to spend, like I said, that whole day, and we're going to feed them lunch, and we're just going to really enjoy that. So absolutely anyone who wants to be involved is invited to participate with that on March 30th, but we just see the value in these because we want to get these people and retain them. And with the welding expansion, like Dr. Forby mentioned, putting them in the ag barn gives them this great space where they can stretch out and do all of that. Now, this is just one of my concepts, and I've been doing research about I want to get them that house so that they can every semester redo that house from the ground up, start in August, and by the time it comes around to the end of the semester, we could sell it for them and then put that money back in the program. So it also helps us with our blight and just, all around. And it's especially since our strategic pillar number 3 is housing. We want to get them really comfortable. So we're asking you to approve this program. And, I was doing some research. I'm just kind of really honored to say that Borger Inc. has been able to pour, since 2009, over $800,000. We're really close to $900,000 into Frank Phillips partnerships. So it looks like there's the potential we could hit $1 million this year, but it's just we're seeing great benefit from that.
That's great. That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
And I hope I get to meet Katrina.
Absolutely. You can come have lunch with us.
I don't know if y'all ever watched.
Swing to the
I
mayor,
think
right?
it was Flip
She's
in
on
Texas.
Flip and Move.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
13 seasons.
I loved it. I loved her. And
She's awesome.
that's exciting, though. Thank you so much. Any
Nah.
anything?
I'd like to say one thing.
Okay.
I'm an ex-welder. I was trained in Kansas City at a college there, and we were lucky. We had one person per booth. And personally, I don't understand, this is a big need. If you have to double up people in a booth, you're putting them in a hazard zone for flash burn and stuff like that, because, one person's watching another person weld, and you don't raise your helmet and down at the same time. That's a potential burn for your eyes right there, and I want to see this happen. I want to see them be able to expand healthy and not be injured. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sounds like a motion.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the resolution R-008-23, authorizing a financial agreement between Borger Inc. and Frank Phillips College.
Second. All in favor? And it passes. And at this time, we will we will adjourn into executive session in compliance with Chapter 551 Texas Government Code, Open Meetings Law. Council will retire into executive sessions related to Section 551.072 for discussion regarding the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property. Discuss property 004-2023-SH. And so we'll retire and we'll be back. Okay, we returned from executive session where no action was taken. And so then we're going to move on to item number 14, and consider and take appropriate action to adjourn.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
I second.
All in favor? And we are adjourned. And we appreciate everyone that
Yes.
came out and everyone that spoke today. Thank you all.